Hello guys, welcome to my channel and thank you so much for being here. My name is Natasha, I am fluent in 9 languages and my channel is dedicated to language related topics. So today I want to share with you guys top 5 easiest and top 5 hardest languages to learn for English speakers. If you are someone who has been following me for some time and if you have watched other of my videos, you have probably heard me saying that it is very hard to say what is the easiest and what is the hardest language to learn. I'm saying this because how easy or how hard language is depends a lot on your talent, on how much time you dedicate to language learning, on how much you love the language you're learning, and most importantly, how close it is to your native language or to other languages you speak. So it is impossible to say what is the easiest and the hardest language for everyone on the planet to learn. So today I decided to pick 5 easiest and 5 hardest languages for English speakers. And please, as you heard, I said English speakers, not native English speakers, because I believe that when you are very good in certain language, when you have high proficiency in English, for example, it is going to help you a lot with certain languages, even though you're not native speaker. And since I know that most of you guys are very good in English, I decided to share 5 easiest languages it would be easy for you to learn and 5 hardest ones that you may be struggling a little bit to learn. So let's start. And since I like to start conversations with good news, I'm going to share 5 easiest languages first and then we will go to the hardest ones. These 5 easiest languages that I picked are not going to be in any particular order, so don't think that the first one is the easiest and the one that's on the 5th place is a little bit harder. I'm just listing the 5 languages I think are not too hard for English speakers. The first one I want to talk about is Spanish, because it's my favorite language. I know that Spanish is very popular nowadays. It is one of the most spoken languages in the world. A lot of people love Spanish. In fact, I have never met someone who does not like Spanish. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is relatively easy to learn. Everyone likes how it sounds. Music in Spanish is so popular. They have a big movie and TV show industry. So if you want to assist movies and TV shows in Spanish, it's very easy to find them. So a lot of materials and resources for learning Spanish are available. That's one of the reasons why it's easy. But the main reason why it is easy for English speakers to learn is because, believe it or not, they're not so different. They do belong to different language families. Spanish is Romanic language, English is Germanic language, but alphabet is pretty much the same. There are a few letters in English that Spanish doesn't have and the other way around. Pronunciation is not too hard. Spanish does not have very weird sounds that will scare you. Every grammar is hard, but the Spanish one is not too hard. Also, both English and Spanish have a lot of base in Latin language, so a lot of words are very similar, but you have to be careful here because they might have different meanings, some of them, but a lot of words that you hear in Spanish might mean exactly the same thing as they would mean in English. So I would definitely list Spanish as one of the easiest language to learn for English speakers. It is beautiful, it is useful, it is not too hard. So if you are looking for something to learn, go for Spanish. Other language that is very easy for a lot of English speakers is Dutch. Now, I don't speak Dutch, I don't know any word in Dutch, but I have heard it and I have seen it written. When you see a text in Dutch, you might definitely notice how similar it is to English. Dutch and English belong to the same language family, they're both Germanic languages. And I know that when you hear Dutch, it sounds completely different than English. I personally don't like the way it sounds, but believe it or not, they're very, very similar. And also, Dutch language had a lot of influence on English back when Dutch colonizers came to what is today United States. They influenced English in a way. And something that I have learned only recently is that word cookie is actually of Dutch origin, which sounds cute. So if you are English speaker, especially native English speaker, Dutch might be pretty easy for you to learn. What could be hard is pronunciation, because when I hear Dutch, it's really, to me, it sounds impossible to pronounce, but I'm sure it's not. What might be hard about Dutch is the fact that it's not really one of the most useful languages. I believe that every Dutch native speaker speaks English, and it's not spoken by a lot of people. It doesn't have a big population of native speakers, so it's not very useful, but it's definitely easy for English speakers to learn. Language number 3 I want to share with you today is German. I know that many of you would immediately disagree and say, no way, German cannot be easy. And it's not easy, but if you speak English, it will be definitely easier for you. I have met a lot of people who are either English native speakers or are very good in English, and they think that German is so hard, that it's totally different than English, that those two languages have nothing in common. It is not true. German, also same as English and Dutch, belongs to Germanic language family, so some bases are same. Of course, it sounds totally different. I don't see any similarity when I listen to Germans and to people from UK or USA, so English and German don't sound alike, but they have a lot in common. I have read that 40% of vocabulary in German is very, very similar to the same words or words with same meaning in English. And I have definitely seen it back in school when I was learning German. There are so many similarities. Those similarities might not be visible if you are just seeing German or hearing German for the first time, but I believe that the more you learn, the more you will see them. Grammar is kind of complicated. I would say pretty complicated for English speakers, but it's not impossible to learn. Pronunciation is also not that hard. I don't know of any sound in German language that is impossible to pronounce. What might scare people off are very long words, and I have to admit that that used to scare me a lot, because I would see a word in German and it would be like a whole sentence, long as a whole sentence, but it's just one word. But then someone explained me that they create those long words by putting a lot of smaller words together, and when you see it that way, you realize it's really not that hard. German is useful to know, but what might make it hard to learn is the fact that it's not too useful, since most of German speakers speak English, and the difference between German and Spanish is the fact that everyone loves Spanish and not many people like how German sounds, so that might be hurting, but still it is one of the easiest languages to learn for English speakers. One more language that could be relatively easy to learn for English speakers is Italian. I have seen that some people call Italian the easiest Romanic language to learn, and I would definitely disagree with that. I believe that Spanish is quite a bit easier than Italian. Italian to me seems to have a little bit more complicated writing rules than Spanish, just a little bit, it's not too complicated, and also Italian grammar seemed to be a little bit more complicated to me than Spanish one. But still, people have different opinions, so for a lot of people, Italian is the number one easy language to learn if you speak English. It belongs to different language family, but it has, of course, it's based on Latin language, and English has a lot of influence in Latin. If you are English speaker, you don't have to learn new alphabet or new writing system in order to speak or learn Italian. Pronunciation is not too hard, and definitely what makes it relatively easy to learn is the fact that everyone loves Italian. Same as with Spanish, I have never heard anyone say that they don't like Italian. Everyone likes how it sounds, everyone is fascinated by Italy and their food, and everyone knows a lot of Italian words because of restaurants and food. So this is definitely something that helps a lot. And I'm sure that everyone at some point of their lives had a fascination with Italy and desire to be able to speak Italian. So maybe this is a sign for you guys to start learning if you want. So that was language number 4 in the easiest group, and language number 5 in the easiest languages to learn for for English speakers is Afrikaans. I know this might sound weird, and before I actually learned what Afrikaans is, I thought it's some language that has nothing to do with Indo-European group of languages. It is some African language, and how could it be any similar to any of the languages I speak? But believe it or not, it is. Afrikaans is one of 11 official languages in South Africa, and its closest relative is actually Dutch. Afrikaans actually was made out of Dutch back when Dutch colonizers came to South Africa. Of course, since that was a long time ago, Afrikaans has a lot of influence from some African languages of the tribes or people who lived in territory of South Africa, but still it is very, very close to Dutch. So as I said, if you are English speaker, Dutch would be relatively easy to you, and so would Afrikaans. The bad thing about it is the fact that it's not the most useful language to learn. I believe it only has 6 or 7 million native speakers, and I'm sure that most of them speak English, so it is definitely not on the list of the most useful languages, but it is definitely easy. So these were 5 easiest ones. If you ask me which one was the easiest for me to learn, I would definitely say Spanish, but probably not because it's objectively the easiest. I think it was super easy for me because I was very young when I started learning it. I was only 9 years old, and there's nothing better than young, fresh brain when you want to learn a new language. And also the fact that I'm so obsessed with Spanish and Latin American culture helped a lot. So for me, the easiest one was definitely Spanish. So after these 5 easiest languages, let's go back to the hard part, or the hardest languages for English speakers to learn. I'm sure that most of you expect me to say Mandarin is #1 hardest language to learn for English speaker, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Mandarin in the first place, and I don't even think I have to explain why. We all know, we all see why is it so hard. Writing system is not only totally different, but it's extremely complicated, and I'm sure that for most of the people, even those who love languages, it is close to impossible to learn all those signs. And I'm saying close to impossible because some people do manage to learn Mandarin. I will never be one of them. Writing system is definitely hard, but I feel that could be something I could somehow manage to learn. What I could never manage to learn is the fact that Mandarin Chinese is one of tonal languages, which means it uses tones to give a meaning to a word. So there are different ways to pronounce certain word, and that changed the meaning of the word totally. To me, it seems like you have to be able not only to speak, but also to sing in order to speak Mandarin Chinese, and that's definitely not one of my talents. It's not one of most people's talents, so I think that for someone who is speaking English or any other Indo-European languages, Mandarin Chinese is definitely close to impossible to learn. Bad thing is that it's very useful nowadays, so if you're brave enough to give it a try, good luck. Language #2 that I consider extremely hard to learn for English speakers is Arabic. Arabic has a lot of reasons why is it so hard, and I can say it as someone who tried to learn it. Eventually I gave up, and I talk about this in one of my videos, so please check it out. Arabic has different writing system, and I know that most of people think that it's very complicated. I was one of those people until I started learning it. Even though it seems very complicated, Arabic has only 28 letters. They have letters, not signs. That's a good thing. And I managed to learn all those letters. They're not too hard. They're quite beautiful. It's like beautiful language, written language. They look nice. They're not too complicated. But Arabic has so many other things that are complicated. For me personally, the hardest thing was pronunciation. There are some sounds in Arabic that when I listen to Arabic speakers, it sounds good. When I try to say the same, there's no way. And I'm not someone who likes to speak language on really average or below average level. So that was one of the reasons why I gave up, and that's one of the reasons why it's really hard for English speakers to learn. And one more reason or one more thing that makes Arabic very hard to learn is the fact that there are so many different dialects that sound completely different, and even native speakers have a hard time understanding each other if they speak different dialects. So that is one of the things that makes it very, very hard to learn for English speakers or any other Indo-European language speakers. Language number 3 that is extremely hard for English speakers to learn is Russian. I say English speakers because if you speak some other Slavic languages, Russian is not going to be a big deal for you. Writing system is definitely different, but I am saying this every time, it's really not hard. Like Cyrillic is really not hard. Of course, I had it easy because my native language is also written in Cyrillic and Latin alphabet, so I learned it as a kid. But even if I learned it as a grown-up, I don't think it would be hard. It's definitely nowhere near Mandarin Chinese. It's nowhere near any other Asian language that use different writing system. So don't be afraid of Cyrillic. However, Slavic languages, including Russian, have very hard grammar, which again is relatively easy if you speak any other Slavic language, but if you only speak English or Romanic language, for example, it is going to be hard. One more thing that I know a lot of people think is extremely hard is pronunciation, because Russian and all other Slavic languages sound a little bit harsh because we use a lot of consonants in our words and last names. So that definitely looks scary. And I totally understand people who refuse to try learning any Slavic language because they're really hard. When people ask me what is the easiest Slavic language to learn, I always say Bulgarian or Macedonian, because even though they use Cyrillic alphabet and might seem complicated to you, I feel that their grammar is a little bit more simple since they don't have cases. So if you are looking for Slavic language to learn, start from these two. They're not very useful, but they will be definitely easier than Russian, for example. Language number 4 that is very, very hard is another language that I tried to learn and I gave up, and it is Hungarian. Believe it or not, Hungarian, even though it's spoken in Europe, is very, very difficult because it is not related to any other European language. There are some similarities with Finnish, but from what I have seen and from what I have heard from native speakers, it's definitely not enough for them to understand each other at all. And for some reason, to me, Hungarian always seemed to have some similarity with Turkish. I can't even say that it's similarity, but there is something. I don't know what, but it always reminded me a little bit of Turkish. What makes it so complicated is the fact that it is not related to any other language, so no matter how many languages you speak, Hungarian will be very hard for you. Writing system is not hard. They use Latin with additional few letters that are pretty similar to all the ones you know in English. Grammar is crazy difficult. It's probably one of the scariest grammars that I have ever seen in my life. I gave up on Hungarian after 3, 4, maybe 5 months of learning it. It's a beautiful language, it sounds nice, but it's really hard to learn. And one more thing that makes it very difficult to learn is the fact that even though Hungary is in Europe, I feel that they're a little bit reserved and closed to the rest of the world because of, in language terms, I don't mean politically, but when it comes to language, it is so different, it is practically impossible to learn. So good thing is it's not too useful, so you don't have to cry over not being able to learn Hungarian. And language number 5 that I want to share with you on the hardest languages list is Greek. I speak Greek, you can check it on my channel. It is definitely hard language to learn. Writing system is different, Greek alphabet is different than English one, but it's not impossible to learn. I actually think it's pretty simple. Good thing is you don't have to learn Greek. A lot of Greeks speak English. If you plan to travel to Greece, you will be fine. But if you do want to try to learn it, I definitely think it's a good language to learn if you are interested in history. Greece is the country where you should go, but it is hard. Pronunciation is not too hard. Grammar, however, is really, really complicated. And even when you learn Greek alphabet, it will take you some time to be comfortable enough to write and read in Greek, even though you're able to speak it a little bit. Guys, that was it for today. 5 easiest and 5 hardest languages to learn for English speakers. Please let me know in the comments what are the easiest and the hardest languages to learn for you. Have you tried to learn them or you gave up immediately? Let me know in the comments what do you think about this topic. Also, in a case you like my videos, please give me a like, a comment, subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for watching. See you soon.